Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News Weekend. The World Police and Fire Games are being held in Winnipeg this week. Thousands of first responders from roughly 70 countries will compete in various sports to show off their abilities. But as the competitions go on, tensions with the city's own police continue to rise amid calls to search the landfills. Sav Jonesa has more.
Protests against police hit a peak this week. They're feeling the heat this summer as tensions rage on over police priorities. Search landfills for the remains of Indigenous women, or host an international sport competition for first responders.
I think it's hugely insulting.
Daniel Friesen of Winnipeg Police Cause Harm says if they would listen to community, the answer is clear: search the landfill.
Our elected officials are choosing to spend millions of dollars on this celebration of carceral violence, of policing, when there's so many community needs, clear asks that are being unmet, like searching the landfill.
The group staged a mass bike ride on Friday to protest the World Police and Fire Games. According to Mike Edwards, COO for the Games, they are about bringing people together.
While we recognize and understand the pain and everything that is going on and is being felt in the province of Manitoba, we do believe that the spirit of collaboration that we have been able to develop brings a lot more positive and brings the two communities together.
But Friesen says the roots are racist. He says the first games took place in California in 1967 during mass tensions with Black liberation and anti-war movements.
That's very much the spirit of the games when you intertwine, policing into any other kind of thing. Police bring violence with them. That's their job, to bring violence and to coerce people. And so that spirit, of course, is going to be carried with the games. I don't think that's something we should be putting public money towards.
On Sunday, the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs protested the opening ceremonies of the games. Camp Mercedes is a nearby memorial camp set up alongside the ceremonies. The conflict is clear. While the province and city have funded millions towards the games, they have promised $0 to the landfill search. The provincial government refuses to look into further possibilities, while the city agrees the search should go forth despite no financial help. Through influencers on TikTok and outspoken leaders in Indigenous politics, calls for searching the landfill have come from across the country.
If we're an Indigenous person and we're in these positions, this is what we have to do. We have to break rules. We have to push boundaries. And so we're here today to come show our love and support for the families who have set up here so diligently and have to mourn so publicly.
For Cambria Harris, the daughter of one woman believed to lay in a landfill, there is no other option than to search.
We're not asking, we are telling you that this needs to be done. You will search the landfill, and if you will not, you will hand me the shovel and you will hand me the hazmat suits myself, and our community will go in there and retrieve our woman.
Protesters let it be known last week that their eyes are still on the police and their inaction as they defaced police headquarters on Tuesday, pressuring them to do something. Now, as more than 8,000 athletes and family members relax in Athletes Village at the city's Forks site, Camp Mercedes mourns, and the women in the landfill are not forgotten. Sav Jonesa, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
APTN News reached out to the WPFG on allegations of racism and the roots of the event and are awaiting a response. We reached out to the city, the province, and the Winnipeg Police. Police could not make anyone available for an interview. The city acknowledged the request and the province has yet to answer. Well, for more on this, we spoke with Cambria Harris, who has been calling for a search of the Prairie Green landfill, where the remains of her mother, Morgan Harris, are believed to be. She joined Daryl from Camp Morgan at the Brady landfill.
Cambria, thank you so much for being here today. You were part of a demonstration Sunday night at the Forks outside of the World Police and Fire Games. Why was it important to take the search the landfill's message, to that event?
It was important to take it over to that event because back in December, when we found out that my mother had fallen victim to a homicide, as well as 3 other women, we had gathered at Odena Circle to speak about the ongoing injustices that we are currently facing in regards to retrieving our loved ones before I went to go speak to Ottawa. And 8 months later, nothing within this fight has changed besides words of affirmation with no further actions to retrieve these women. And with the Winnipeg Police Fire Games going on right now on the same grounds as Camp Mercedes, which is a memorial encampment for one of the women who were believed to be in that landfill, it's a smack in the family's faces. You know, behind the Winnipeg Police Games, there's literally a memorial encampment set up where a grieving mother is sitting there missing her daughter and wanting her to get retrieved from that landfill. And there's people from all around the world coming here to this $9 million event, not knowing what was going on. During the demonstration, people were laughing at us. They were shouting things. There was a water bottle thrown over the fence, as well as just people coming out of that event and coming to ask questions. One of the officers from Poland actually came to stand with us and stood with us for a good amount of time. And I think that in itself was sending a message that, you know, this needs to be talked about and this needs to be acknowledged. If you have a treaty acknowledgement standing at the front of your Winnipeg Police Games, then you need to be respecting the woman. If you have a sacred teepee sitting within there, then you need to start respecting the sacredness of our women as well. And it wouldn't have had to have come to that point had they have just taken action from the very beginning.
Now, Winnipeg police say the protest was a disturbance and say the crowd was aggressive. What do you say to that?
Mm-hmm. I would like to say that this could have very, very easily been avoided, and there was no aggression shown. And I posted the video evidence on my Facebook as well as Instagram because I was live at the time of this incident for my safety and for the security guard safety and anyone else that was in that surrounding area, because things happen. And what had happened was, when they said that we were pushing the fence, they were pushing the fence because the security guards had started using the fence as a physical wall to push us back, and as they were doing that, they dropped the fence on my foot while another security guard is pushing me back, and I'm telling them, how do you expect me to move back when I am physically stuck here as you're assaulting me? And that's what happened. And then immediately after they lifted the fence and I got out, that's when we created that space. So it was not aggressive that entire time, and it didn't ever have to get to that point had they have just listened from the very beginning.
Cambria, do you feel there's a lot of tension right now with police given everything that's going on?
Absolutely. I absolutely find it frustrating because it's been known time and time again that Indigenous lives are not being valued. If the reconciliation that's talked about, the 231 calls to justice that's spoken about, all of those paths and the leadways to stop this ongoing genocide against our women, it's all lies. When, like, back a couple days ago, one of our warriors got arrested at the Canadian Museum of Human Rights for mischief and body armor, for standing up for a woman when a security guard was caught committing an indecent act. And the police did not investigate it any further, but instead arrested our warrior for standing up to those kind of injustices. Just further shows what kind of systemic oppression we face, because they would rather protect the predators than the victims in these situations. When that man came down and dumped on the red mural, there was no protection provided for our safety here. Just 2 days ago, someone went out of their way to knock the porta potty off of the road, a 2-lane road. Then there's no way that you can just accidentally hit that. We used to have slow down signs there, but the city took those away. So where is the safety? If we can't even feel safe at our own encampment, then how could we feel safe in our community and in our homes?
Cambria, we'll have to leave it there, but we certainly do appreciate you coming on and giving us a bit of your thoughts on some of these situations.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, on Thursday, there was a major turnout in Winnipeg for a round dance and rally calling for area landfills to be searched. The calls have been amplified in recent weeks after Manitoba's Premier Heather Stephenson said she did not support a search of the Prairie Green landfill. Gathered at Winnipeg's famed Portage in Main for speeches and a round dance. They then marched down Portage Avenue to the Manitoba legislature to, quote, disrupt Heather Stephenson's day. Things are becoming more politically charged as Manitoba is about to have an election. Melissa Robinson, whose cousin Morgan Harris is believed to be in the Prairie Green landfill, says she spoke with the federal government's new Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations.
We met with the minister 8 a.m. this morning, and he more or less said, yeah, that's the work is going to get done, and we're going to move forward with it, and that we need to more or less shove out Heather and get in a new government, and then we'll go from there. But we did give him kind of a timeline. He said, what do I need to do to get this ball rolling? And we said, well, in this 90 days from today, let's get this, that, and A, B, and C done, and then we'll go from there. I was very happy, very happy. Like I shared, it's been a long 8 months. We've been fighting for this. What I could never understand was, why are we begging? Why are we begging for them to do the right thing, right, to bring our loved ones home?
Now, in a statement to APTN News, the minister's office says he spoke with 2 of the families affected, AMC and Chief Kyra Wilson, as well as the Mayor of Winnipeg. He reiterated Canada's position to support the process. Time now to step aside for a quick break, but there's much more still to come here on APTN National News Weekend. Welcome back. What does it mean to witness climate change? It's a question scientists are trying to answer on a remote Yukon island, and they're using virtual reality to do it. Here's Sarah Connors with more on that story.
History. The land is starting to erode by itself.
Virtual reality project Kikitarik Arctic at Risk is transporting people to the Yukon's northernmost point, letting them see for themselves how climate change is drastically impacting Canada's north. A remote island off the Yukon's northern coast, Kikitarik has been a protected park since 1987. But in recent decades, the effects of climate change have altered the island's landscape.
Kikitarik itself is a classroom. Each and every year we go there, we're finding new things.
As an Inuvialuit person with ancestral ties to the island, Senior Park Ranger Richard Gordon felt it was important to lend his voice for the project.
It has a lot of history to the ancestry of our people, so that's why we protect it today and still make use of it today.
A place only accessible by boat or plane, Gordon says the project helps connect people to the island and gives them a glimpse of what's happening firsthand.
A lot of that has happened, and it really opens your mind to saying, like, why is this happening?
The tech itself is developing, but what it can do is give you that really immersive experience of an environment if you can't have the opportunity to go there for yourself.
Scientist Isla Meyer-Smith has been researching climate change on Kikitarik since 2008. She says the project was born from the COVID pandemic when she and other researchers weren't sure what to do with the data they were collecting. Thanks to funding from the National Geography Society, that project became a reality.
For people who've never had the opportunity to really think about change going on in the Arctic, hopefully they're going to learn a bit about the impacts that are happening as the climate warms.
How do we work together to protect Kikitarik for future generations? We have to adapt.
With the island's future in jeopardy, Gordon is hopeful the project will serve as a tool for educating young Inuvialuit about the island's importance.
And it gives them confidence that they too have a voice in this world as it changes. They too have a voice in protecting their culture.
Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
A 3-year-old pilot project at the border near Cornwall is now permanent. It's proving to be a positive step for Akwesasne residents who live on Cornwall Island in Ontario. APTN's Annette Francis has that story for us.
This dedicated lane for Cornwall Island was put in place in 2020. The intent was to create a smoother crossing for Akwesasne residents who live on the Canadian side of the border, so they don't have the inconvenience of going through Canada Customs. It was a 6-month joint pilot project between the Mohawk Council of Akwesasne and Canada Border Services Agency, or CBSA. According to Akwesasne Grand Chief Abram Benedict, it's working well.
You know, we've heard positive feedback. Residents coming from Cornwall Island heading into the city of Cornwall use the domestic lane, so it does cut back on the time that it takes for people to get from Akwesasne, Cornwall Island to Cornwall.
It's been 14 years since CBSA shut down the customs plaza on the island. The agency moved it to Cornwall due to Akwesasne citizens' concerns over border guards on the territory having to carry firearms, forcing community members to go through customs. Akwesasne residents may now have this dedicated lane, but they still have to go through this toll booth. So Benedict says they're working on its relocation to allow for faster travel and even less wait times.
Right now, as it exists, is when you come from either Akwesasne, New York, or Akwesasne, Cornwall Island, you heading into the city of Cornwall, you come to the toll booth first, and then once you go through the toll booth, you go through the CBSA. What we want is to go to the CBSA first and then the toll plaza second.
Benedict says the relations with the CBSA have improved over the years with the creation of the Collaboration Initiative. He says training is key.
As new officers come to the area and work at the Cornwall port, they need to understand who the Mohawks are and why it's significant for us to be able to get through quickly, why our rights should be recognized, and why our community is broken up by Ontario, New York, Quebec, and the international border.
The domestic lane will become permanent in September. Meanwhile, there is no commitment yet to relocate the toll booth plaza. It is operated by the Seaway International Bridge Corporation. Annette Francis, APTN National News, Cornwall, Ontario.
Removing names of controversial historical figures from public view is continuing with efforts. A Montreal man who wants the city to rename an avenue commemorating Christopher Columbus. Here is Maricela Amador with more.
This might seem like an unassuming bust of Christopher Columbus, but
this represents rape, slavery, colonialism, brutality. It's really surreal to see this.
Concordia University student Ray Coelho started a petition to rename the Christophe Colomb, or Christopher Columbus Avenue in Montreal. His colonial legacy, Coelho says, does not have a place in our society.
It bothers me to see another a colonial figure who subjugated the native people of this hemisphere be celebrated with statues and street names. A street name is basically giving them prominence, and I don't think we should give prominence to someone like Christopher Columbus and his legacy.
Coelho is campaigning door-to-door using this pamphlet, collecting signatures and educating Montrealers about Columbus's sordid legacy. He currently has about 200 signatures, but is aiming for more.
I plan on taking the 1,000 signatures to the city of Montreal and bringing up the issue formally in a council meeting.
Changing a name is difficult, but it has been done before. Back in 2019, the city renamed Amherst Street, named for the general who distributed smallpox-infested blankets to Indigenous people. It's now called Adadago, a Mohawk word loosely translating to brothers and sisters. The city of Montreal has a committee that specifically looks at these requests.
Si on reprend l'exemple de Christophe Colomb, la solution, c'est peut-être pas de renommer la rue, c'est peut-être d'ajouter à l'histoire, c'est peut-être d'ajouter une plaque qui explique l'histoire de Christophe Colomb et le passé plus douloureux et plus sombre qu'on connaît de cette personnalité-là. Ça peut être d'ajouter un autre nom, mais ça, c'est le comité qui va réfléchir à tout ça avec leur expertise.
Although Coelho has not formally submitted the request to the city, he already has the support of some provincial politicians.
I think one of the most elementary steps to reconciliation is to take down the monuments to the genocidal figures, to the people who perpetuated this brutality towards the Indigenous people that were here far before the Europeans arrived.
Tyrell believes that change should and will be adopted. So does Alain Babineau, a federal lobbyist against racial profiling.
Once we bring this petition forward and demonstrate the importance and the symbol around the change of names, we're hoping that the city will act pretty swiftly.
But Coelho's campaign isn't limited to the downtown area. He would also like to rename Columbus Avenue to the west, in the municipality of Pointe Claire, where he grew up and currently lives. Coelho says that residents of the avenue have suggested restoring its previous name, Des Ormes Boulevard.
The majority of people I've approached at our home have signed the petition, which is very encouraging.
Maricela Amador, APTN National News, Montreal.
Time for one more quick break, but stick around. There's more to come. Welcome back. Nehiya singer Buffy St. Marie has announced her retirement from live performances. The multiple international award winner was once banned from U.S. airwaves for her ballad Universal Soldier.
Hey baby, I just got back from town.
Buffy cited health issues as the reason for this unexpected retirement. She's from the Piapot First Nation near Regina, Saskatchewan. As a child, she was adopted by a family from Massachusetts. She became part of the Greenwich Village rebel folk scene in the 60s with artists like Bob Dylan and Joan Baez. In 1982, she became the first Indigenous person to win an Oscar as co-writer of Up Where We Belong for the movie An Officer and a Gentleman. Well, it's the beginning of salmon season in the Yukon. Their migration was honored with celebration and a song on Tuesday.
It lives in the water.
Elders, youth, and leaders gathered at the White Horse Fish Ladder to welcome the deeply respected fish. Chinook salmon have declined in numbers in recent decades due to things like climate change and fish farms. But 34,000 Chinook are expected to enter Canada this season, slightly more than previous years.
It's important to look to that relationship that we have as people, that we have with the natural world, with the salmon, and with all the things that the salmon provides to our land, to our animals, to our fish, to our insects, to all the living things on our land.
And that is all the time we have for your APTN National News for this weekend. For news anytime, you can visit our website, aptnnews.ca. I'm Dennis Ward. Marcy, thanks for being with us. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.